So today we're talking about 7 holds from a new company from Canada that are called Citrus Holds. A guy called Louis Hay, who actually owns a gym, actually started his own hold company. And I saw them on Facebook and I'm like, okay, these look like they're going to be pretty cool. I messaged him and he sent me the holds. These holds are designed for volumes, primarily for screwing onto volumes, and they're pretty interesting. And the problem is, I don't want to sound like an old car salesman because I'm probably repeating myself a little bit. The price right now with the exchange rate between the US and Canada, it's in the US's favour massively, and then between Europe and Canada, again, it's in their favour massively. So when I found out that these holds were $20 Canadian, I kind of lost my mind a little bit. There are some flaws, he's new to the market, but what he has done and what he has created is actually really quite nice. So 7 holds, we'll start with number 1, which is this guy. Big, long, 4 screw-on sloper is the easiest way of putting it. The texture is, let's go for like, it's gritty. There are a few little imperfections in it, but it's pretty damn good. So that's actually a pretty good thing when you look at it. But these holds are just 7 comp screw-ons. Like, if I wanted to, I could probably snap this. They're not thin by any way, shape or form, but they're actually pretty good. No logo on this guy. Inset screw holes, all 4 of them. Now, the imperfection I'll complain about is the back, where the sanding is, as you can see at both ends, a little bit off. It needs to be belted down, and there are a few little bubble imperfections in the back as well, where the mix hasn't actually been agitated enough. Like right now, if I actually look at it, this is actually significantly more raised than the rest of it. It's got sanded, but it's not got sanded perfectly, so it's not going to fit flush to a volume. But you know what? For a first attempt, and at $20, I'm not going to be complaining. Number 2 is actually the smallest one out of the set of these 7 holds. The sanding on this guy is actually pretty good. And you can see no logo again, double inset screws. Texture's really good, super smooth. These are made for volumes again. So if you can imagine just reaching around a volume, just getting like 1 or maybe 2, getting your thumb on top, just getting in, just giving a little bit more purchase to those really quite sharp angles on volumes. That's what you're looking at. There's no agitation, no bubbles in the back of this guy, but again, the texture's there. It's good, and it's just it's nice. Number 3, bonk, is this guy. A little bit thicker, a little bit fatter. This time you can see the Citrus Holds logo on there. 3 screws in quite close proximity. I'm wondering, I probably would have spaced these out a little bit and moved the logo if I was perfectly honest, just to give a little bit more a little bit more weight distribution. The sanding, again, you can see where it's been sanded, but not, there's obviously a part that hasn't been sanded and it has a little bit of a dimple in it. But, if I get it on a flat surface, it's not bad, it's not rocking, but it's really good. This guy is actually really quite positive. You're looking at a pad all the way through, not a pad that you're going to be able to, like, anything maybe 10 degrees, you'll be able to pull on this guy. Anything more than that, you're pretty much screwed. But this around the top of a volume is just going to be like, this one is like, oh, thank God this holds there. Number 4, bang, this guy again. This guy again doesn't actually have a logo, which is kind of surprising considering it's not actually that much of a different size to the one before. As a climbing hold company, you really want your logo to be on the holds, even if it's like smaller, just out of the way. This guy actually has, if you can see it, a slightly, rather than just being completely round, slightly different curvature right here, where you can actually get into it. So maybe you know, it's going to be a little bit harder, but definitely you'll be able to get onto it and like pull on it around a volume. Again, the sanding, if you look at the edges, like, you know, there's a little bit of a ledge on the end. I'd want to see this sanded down more to this profile. So you're probably taking about another maybe another 2 mil off of this hole to actually make it somewhere near perfect. But then there's always a play-off between the depth of the screw holes and then how much you actually sand. And I spoke to lawyers, like if I was going to design these holes, I probably would have made them a little bit deeper so I could actually sand them off and actually have them perfectly and sit super flush. But again, you know, it's flush, but there's still a little bit of an edge on it, which is a crying shame. But he'll work this out. He'll work this out in production. He hasn't even made the production molds for these yet, so I expect most of these problems that I'm complaining about to be gone away. I spoke to him about sanding, and he's, you know, I showed him some pictures. It's pretty good. This is number 5. Number 5, awesome citrus logo in the middle. The good thing about the logo, even though it is actually dual texture, it's not within the, like, it's not going to help anyone in any way, shape or form grabbing around a volume to grab these things. Like, it's always out of the way. It's always just, you know, it's actually a really nice logo. It's a little lemon, I think, is what it's meant to be. 3 set screw holes. Sanding again isn't so great, but this guy is like reminds me of the Holds comp slopers and some of the friction comp stuff that I've seen of recent days after following the Tour de Bloc and actually looking at it. But this guy is super, like, you know, you're maybe looking at a centimetre thick in the thickest part of the hold. The rest of it is just sloped. It just comes down to how you're going to put it, how you're going to hold it when it's actually on a volume. These, you know, you can't climb on these, or if you do try and climb on these, you're a psychopath. Number 6, because there's only 7 in this set, is this guy. 3 screws, logo, sanding. I'll stop complaining about the sanding. Oh, brr. Yeah, it's like this. It's super thin all the way through, and you're not getting much on this hold in any way, shape or form. But this, you know, with something else around a corner, you're going to be laughing, you're going to be pulling for days. The texture means you're not going to be brushing these off too much. So, you know, it's actually pretty good. Like, sometimes texture, like the lack of texture or a very fine texture is a bad thing. When it comes to things like this, which I would use for a competition, which are being used for a competition, it's actually not a bad thing. I'm not going to complain about it, because it is quite grippy, but it's actually not so bad on the skin. And when it does get chalked up, it's going to get a little bit better for your hands. Last one, number 7. Yeah. 4 screws. Chunky. This guy is actually probably the deepest one out of the lot. You're probably looking at about 2, maybe 2.3 centimeters at the thickest part, but it does actually taper from end to end. It does actually taper this way as well. It's pretty, I would say, symmetrical, but it's not. This side is actually more sloped than this side by a fairly large amount, probably by about a quarter. It's actually more sloped on this side. So you can decide which way you're going to use it around when you're gripping around, or it's on a volume. You can decide how much evil, I guess for want of a better word, you're actually going to want to give to the climber. Again, I said I wouldn't say it, but the sanding, you know, this needs about another millimetre off of it. Not much, but it's the little fine details that do make a huge difference with climbing holds. So Citrus climbing holds, 7 holds. They are $20 Canadian, which is about, I don't know, $2 American and £1 European right now, which is absolutely ridiculous. These are really cheap, and if you're ordering them, I'd order multiple sets, because I think these are holds that, you know, much like the Holds comp screw-ons and like the friction stuff, are holds you're going to come to time and time again when you're setting with volumes, and volume seems to be a very big thing right now. You know, change the angle of your wall and stuff. Having a set of these, or a number of sets of these in your repertoire as a setter, as a home wall owner, as just, you know, someone that owns a gym, is probably a very good idea. So keep watching. There'll be some footage of people climbing what I set on these for from the Shakti Rock Gym reset competition. So check them out. Enjoy the climbing. Be safe. And stay pretty. Peace.
Hey!